would you mind sharing some tangible results with us? Like maybe like amount of debt paid off, money saved, investments made, or money that's growing, whatever comes to mind for you.
I have been able to invest a little for the first time ever in my life. I've dabbled in something like that I don't even understand. But how cool is that? I was so scared to do that before. I didn't know how. And so now there's a little bit, I got a little bit growing over here, and
That's how
that's
it
so
starts.
fun.
Hi, I'm Justin Buonamo, and this is Wisdom is Wealth. Wisdom is Wealth is designed to give you guys practical insights, modern strategies, and even timeless philosophies around gaining wisdom in your life. The wiser we get, the wealthier we will become. This podcast really is inspired by the book of Proverbs in the Bible, which was written by King Solomon, who prayed to God for wisdom and as a byproduct became the wealthiest person to ever live. If he was still alive today in present day, he'd be worth $1.3 trillion with a T. Not because he prayed for wealth, but he prayed to God to give him wisdom. And as he grew wiser, as a byproduct, he grew wealthier, particularly financially, but not just stopping there, in every facet of his life. And in my own life, I have realized that the wealthier I become, it's truthfully just because I have become wiser in life. I'm gonna bring on guests that are incredibly successful, incredibly amazing human beings, and have an amazing financial wealth that they've grown for themselves. And they're gonna share wisdom on their life experience in totality in hopes that something becomes valuable for you to implement in your process, in your life, and in your journey, and see how wisdom truthfully is wealth.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this interview. I have one of my incredible clients, Julie Brumley, with me today, who is a client of mine inside of my company, Journey to Financial Freedom, or JFF. We have a program called the Good Steward Program, where we do financial coaching for the faith-based and ambitious. And I've got one of our all-stars here today. She's been with us for a couple of years now. I'd say about a year and a half, but she doesn't know this, but she's never leaving us. But before I get too deep into my kidnapping plans of Julie, I'm going to let her introduce herself. So, Julie, thank you for being here today. Can you just briefly describe who you are and what you do?
Yeah, I'd love to. I'm Julie Brumley. I am here because on this earth, I feel like God has put me on this earth to help adoptees find belonging within themselves. I'm an adoptee myself. I have a master's in counseling, and so I'm using all of that plus some somatic training to help these very traumatized individuals, myself being one of them too, who has really been able to come to the other side of that and find belonging within me and not needing it from others. So that's what I do. I help others find that.
She's an incredible human, and she does awesome things, and people are very, very lucky to have Julie in their corner. And so we have been fortunate enough to have Julie in our corner, if you will, as a client. And Julie joined, when did you join the Good Steward Program? It was about a year and a half ago, right? Maybe the first time?
Yeah, it was in January of 24. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And so, can you share a little bit about how your financial stress has turned into financial peace as a result of going through the Good Steward Program?
I mean, honestly, anytime there's one specific instance that I've talked about a bunch in the program, but when, and I'll repeat it again because it was so huge for me, but a couple of years ago, I remember getting my first tax bill, if you will, after starting my business, and I lost it. I started crying immediately. I didn't know how the heck I was going to figure this out. I didn't even bring it to God. I just didn't know how to do that with finances. I didn't know how to bring God in. And then a year later, after starting this program, and also the thing that was crazy, it took me 3 full days to do my taxes. 3 full days. It was so annoying. And I dread it. I would dread it. So after doing this, it took me 3 hours to do my taxes.
Amen.
I got a tax bill, and I remember it was so funny. My nature was to go to cray cray, but I didn't. I just was like, oh, all right, we're good. I'll figure it out. It's fine. It was so strange. And I was like, who are you? So it was this weird transition for me and I can't even explain the how besides something that we'll probably get into in a second. It just happened kind of naturally. And I'll explain that in a minute.
I love that. Like what I'm hearing there is like cutting the time down from 3 days to 3 hours was just a better probably skill set, a little bit more financial literacy, and some good tools that we were using to make it a little bit easier. And then also just when the new tax bill came in, the calmness that was there compared to the last one was probably a decent shift from your internal world, right? And that relationship that you have with money and the fears that you have around it decreasing, and just an overall mindset shift. And so speaking of mindset shifts though, can you describe how your mindset around debt has changed since working with us?
Oh my gosh, I used to hate it. I used to hate debt. Debt to me was like the bad thing. It was a bad word, a bad omen, shouldn't have it. And I think, and you have to pay it off. Like, the whole idea of the debt snowball you still do that, but there was more of this overwhelming feeling about it. And now it's almost like I have a whole different view on it. My relationship with money is like a friend. It's a companion. It's a tool. And it's not in control of me. Whereas before it was fear. It was fear-based. Whereas now it's more faith-based. It's including God into it. It's recognizing that he has a plan for this. He has a mission for this, which you talk about all the time. And it's leaning into whatever that is and not allowing that fear, scarcity that I was raised with. Sure. Without, she didn't know any different, was what she was raised with. Absolutely. So it's so cool being able to break the generational curse and even pass it on to my kids. Like watching them, I just had a conversation with one yesterday who was like, gosh, I was doing my budget and it took me for freaking ever because I haven't done it in a long time. And he goes, and now I'm in scarcity because of that. I said, you just said something that's really interesting. You haven't been doing it on a daily basis. And what did that produce in you? Yeah. It was just we just were able to have this really cool conversation. Matter of fact, there was no fear. It was just cool.
That's so good. That's so good. And Julie's referencing, I believe, 22 or 23-year-old son. What son?
This was my 24-year-old who you have not met yet, my oldest. Okay.
So she's got multiple of her sons on our budgeting system that we've taught her and that she's been really enjoying. And, just going back to the beginning of this, like, I'm happy to hear that there's been a mindset shift around debt, because I think in the faith-based community, it is made to seem like it's the enemy, right? All debt is bad. But when you really start to realize that there's good debt and there's bad debt, and you can start to, attack good debt in a healthy way, and maybe even attack bad debt in a healthy way, and maybe even leverage good debt from time to time when necessary. And so when you do that, it actually does help you overcome challenges, because you're not focusing on the wrong things, and you can also have a nice tool and a good mindset to help you overcome some challenges. And so speaking of challenges, like, what were the main challenges you faced before working with us? And two-part question here. And did you feel that the only way to grow past them was to either make more money or to cut out your lifestyle you enjoyed?
Both. Yeah. So, it's funny because I remember when you and I were going back and forth in the DMs a long time ago, I was like, well, what do you think of financial peace, university? And one of the things that came to my mind as you were talking is he has this image that he talks about, a gazelle intensity, that you have to live like no one else so that you can later live like no one else. And his whole point was scarcity, basically. Live in a way like don't live your life for a while, and then you'll be able to live your life. And I'm just like, that ain't attractive to me. So how exactly is this supposed to work? So for me, I think that was a challenge that I faced, was this foundation that was laid that I think was a bit faulty. And I don't think it was very God focused, but it was faulty in the way that it didn't allow us to leverage the things that were available to us, like you have helped us to do. So I think for me, the main challenge was overcoming that hurdle and allowing my mind to get around something that was different. Different is always hard, right? So it was being able to get my mind around that.
Yeah, I think I'm happy you brought that up. I wasn't expecting that to be your answer, and I didn't know that, but it's a really good response, because I think it just shows that, like, What makes, I think, the Good Steward Program different in us is that we want you to live your life. We want you to spend your money, but in a calculated, controlled, and confident fashion. And we believe truthfully that it's possible to live your life and make financial progress at the same time, as long as you have the right systems and you have the right mindset as well. And again, nothing wrong with, Dave's approach, but it's kind of like an all or nothing thing, and a lot of humans are like that. It's either I'm making financial progress or I'm spending my money, right? It's like, I'm either growing financially or I'm shrinking financially. It's, it's like, which I do, I get the logic, but what I'm trying to say here is I'm happy that you've realized that, like, if you're just on the right systems and have the right mindset and have good console, then like you can spend your money and make financial progress at the same time, or can live your life and make financial progress at the same time. And so, again, on the topic of progress here, you have had some pretty awesome results. And so would you mind sharing some tangible results with us? Like maybe like amount of debt paid off, money saved, investments made, or money that's growing, whatever comes to mind for you.
Yeah, I think it's not going to be as big as you would think. And here's why. So when I read this question and thought about it, I was like, oh gosh. So the reason I started your program, was, and this, is because I was going through a divorce, and I had never by myself had to manage a budget. I was 22 when I got married. I had done it, but years prior, and hated it. So I was like, how am I going to do this? I don't know what I'm doing. So for me, when I think about tangible results, when I came in, I didn't really have any debt because that got taken care of with the divorce. Yeah. So when I came in, it was like, now what? How do I learn how to do good things with what I have? And so when I say tangible results for me, I have been able to invest a little for the first time ever in my life. I've dabbled in something like that I don't even understand. But how cool is that? I was so scared to do that before. I didn't know how. And so now there's a little bit, I got a little bit growing over here, and that's so fun, right? Yeah. That's how it starts, is with the little. And I think when it comes to the tangible results, I've built a business. I have never in a million years, if you'd asked me that from the ground up, of something that felt like a lightning bolt to my body, you need to do this. And I'm like, how? I don't even know what I'm doing. But being with you and going through all and having that foundation laid of abundance can be yours. You just have to have the right systems in place has been a tangible result for me. And what I mean by that is I feel very confident in the direction that I'm going, the whole confident, controlled, all of that has been what has been almost, I don't know, settling. That's the word that comes to my mind. It's been settling for me. And my credit like shot up real quick when we first started this program. Went from like 6 something to in the high 700s. Awesome. I think just because I was being attentive on a consistent basis to my money.
Yeah. I mean, you came into this kind of alluding to this question, or the answer to this question. You weren't going to have much to share. And I think there's a lot of tangibility there. Like, you never had to manage your own money because of being in the marriage where it was always managed, and 40, 50 years. And then all of a sudden within a year, you're great at doing it, right? Pretty tangible to me. You're very confident at it as well. So that coupled with making investments, right, and starting a beautiful business, which I truthfully believe is on its way to being worth a 7-figure business, right? And all of the other, and even the credit score too as well, 100-point jump. So that is awesome. It's, you've been with us for a decent amount of time, but also at the same time, it's a short period of time. But, people just don't realize that, like, if you just commit, right, and play your part, things can happen fast. They really can. And so speaking of commitment, can you describe the time commitment required from your end during our collaboration? Like, what responsibilities did you have and what did we take care of?
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm laughing because I remember when I first started this, I was like, when we had to do the beginning part, which, you have to put in a little bit of effort initially because you have to actually do research. You're data collecting is what you guys called it. And for me, that was huge because I didn't know. I literally was in a situation where I was like, I'm not sure how much milk costs. I just go buy it. It just sounds so bad. But now I have to pay attention to what's going on. So it was this data collection. So initially, sure, there's a bit of a time commitment because you're trying to figure out like, what do I do? How do I spend? And so there's usually that 3-month period where it may be a little bit more than 3 to 5 minutes. Like you talk about, it might be 10 to 15, but I mean, come on. What?
Yeah.
That is not that much time. And that was what I was trying to allude to before. It is something, and I even said this to my son last night. I was like, dude, if you just spend 3 to 5 minutes every day updating what's going on in your budget, that scarcity mindset going away. It's just not going to be there because you're seeing what's happening all the time, and you can spend time with it and feel like I don't know. There's something, like I said, settling about that. So that the time commitment for me now. So there was a little bit initially, right? But you set up all of the systems. I just input everything. So I got this massive document. I shouldn't say massive document, but it's a great document where it has, your personal and your business, and you provide all of these things that you've created. We just input everything. And then we have a coach who's there to help us. Like we can direct message them and be like, hey, I'm having a hard time with this. Can you help me? It's like, I don't know. It's like having somebody in your back pocket.
Yeah. I appreciate that because I think when I asked this question to a couple of other clients, I think they might have skipped over the beginning initial phase and kind of just went into, once that's set up, the maintenance, So like, I definitely agree. At the beginning, it's like, you got to put in a little bit of work because we got to collect your numbers. We got to be able to see what's actually going on with your finances to then be able to build some strategy off that. So it's a little bit of work in the beginning to collect your numbers, track, get used to doing it every day. But the idea is after a couple of months and you're up and running, it should really, from a budgeting perspective, at least be 3 to 5 minutes a day. And then collectively, probably in our program, I'd say, I don't know what, an hour and a half a week,
I forgot to say that. Yeah.
No,
well,
you're
then
good.
there's the coaching calls.
Yeah. You got to come with calls or talking with your coach or your own coach. Like, so there's a group calls and individual calls. So, you're probably looking at, depends on which calls you attend, maybe an hour collectively put together for the week to really partake in the program.
Okay. I just have to say something to this. Okay. Yeah. You get what you put into something.
Amen, sister. I agree.
It drives me so crazy when people are like, well, I'm not noticing the change. Well, are you showing up? Like, show up. And so I think that's part of, for me, and you know this about me, like I am, as an Enneagram, when I show up, and I forgot all about that. Yeah, there's a couple of calls that you can go to every week. I immediately put those on my calendar. Yes, I'm going. I will be there. And so it was the 2 hours. For me, it was 2 hours. And that's nothing. Really, when you're trying to learn about something new, invest in that. So I forgot about that part. And I love that because there's repeated teaching that will help me, that repetition, as we know in our brains, will help me understand it more and continue to be putting this stuff into practice. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's so good. And I appreciate you bringing that up, though, because I always say our program is your mirror. We are not perfect, right? Of course not. We're always growing. But at the same point, like, you'll get out of the program what you put into it. And I was talking to a friend yesterday and I was like, are we perfect? No. But also at the same time, I have a lot of data to prove that if clients show up, they listen to what we tell them to do over long periods of time and stay consistent with it, they will get great results. And so it's just crazy sometimes. So like really 2 hours a week is nothing. It's a big surprise a lot of times. And so I know that was one of your surprises. Is there anything else that surprised you about our services or maybe JFF in totality?
That I could love budgeting. I mean, seriously, it totally surprised me. And even the setup phase, that first 3 months, I was so dreading it because I was like, I don't even know how to find all of this stuff because he did all of that. So I was just like, but as I got into it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Like in a way, I'm getting to know me in a totally different way. And that is like my jam. I'm loving that. Like, this is what I teach people, how do you get to know yourself, love yourself, accept yourself? And this was a huge piece of it. It was a piece of me that I had avoided. So that's what surprised me is that I am like loving budgeting. And then, I'm sitting there with my 21-year-old showing him the budget and helping him. Dude, what a surprise to have a child want to learn that.
That's
and to
amazing.
See me, like to see me shift and change with that and want it.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's so cool. It's so cool to hear you say that because I think budgeting has gotten a really bad stigma from society because it feels some people are just their systems are too complex, right? They're confusing, they're overwhelming, and sometimes it feels like handcuffs or restriction or punishment, right? It's almost like a swear word to some people, right? They like tense up, and it's like that shouldn't be the case, right? If you're budgeting the right way, right, it should allow you to live your life. It should allow you to spend your money. It should decrease your stress and anxiety, right? It should be empowering, not restricting. And so I appreciate you sharing that because 10 years ago or so, when I first created the system, that was one of my first thoughts. I'm like, this is awesome. Like I feel so much better after every time I do it, and my finances are getting better. And so I appreciate you sharing that with us. And as we wrap up here, I think this question will be really good for you because I think it took you a little bit to dive in with us, Becky too, a couple of your other friends. And so I'm curious, if someone's on the fence about working with us and they're listening to this, what would you tell them?
Oh gosh, that's so funny. The way you just introed that makes me laugh. It did take me a while. I am one of those who I need relational proof.
Equity.
I don't know how to describe it. And you provided that. You surprisingly showed up for me and would answer my questions. I mean, dude, it probably took me a year to make the decision. So anyway, what I would say is, why are you on the fence? There's so many people who have proof that this system works for them. And that's the reason why I believe the Good Steward has taken off the way that it has in the, recent years. And why you're having a hard time keeping up with everything that sounded bad. You know what I'm saying? You're figuring it out, but that's a good problem.
Yeah.
It's a good problem.
1,000%.
So I think for me, what's keeping you on that fence? I would push them like, come on, this is ridiculous. Get off.
I agree with that. It's like, what if you do a deep dive, what more proof is needed? We've got hundreds of case studies, and I didn't even have to pay you to be here, and so before we go over the allotted time, you might charge me before we hop off. Any final thoughts you'd like to tell the viewers?
I think probably if you are on the fence, realize that is also a decision. That sitting there and not making a decision is a decision. And one of the things that you and I talk about all the time is if you really are there on that fence, then take some time in stillness and listen to what God is trying to tell you to do. Because quite honestly, He'll tell you. Yeah. And you just have to allow yourself the time to be still to hear Him. So that's what I would say.
I love that. Thank you for that. And I agree. I always say the question isn't whether God is trying to speak to us or not. The question is, are we available to hear from Him? And that stillness is just so awesome. And so speaking of awesome, you're awesome. Your story is awesome. I just really appreciate you so much being willing to come on and authentically share. And the crazy part is, while it's been a great story, you're just getting started, but I hope it inspires somebody else to get started with theirs. So thank you for being here today.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Thank you, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this interview. Drop your biggest takeaways in the comments. And as always, subscribe so you can get a notification every time we post. And we'll see you in the next interview.